Hi everyone, Nathan Oldfield here. In this video, I'm going to give you a quick overview of how to set up Veeam Agent for Windows. A very basic setup with 2 or more USB hard drives set up in a rotating system so that you always have a backup disconnected from your machine to protect you from such things as cryptolocker. Now, if you are running a business or you're more concerned about your backup requirements, always engage with your IT provider. What you'll need for this is 2 or more external USB drives. I have a couple of 1 terabyte drives that I'll be using in this demonstration, and a USB thumb drive, which is not essential, but very, very useful to have that on hand if you need to do a recovery. So the first thing we do is get hold of the software. So navigate to veeam.com in your favorite browser. Once that website comes up, click on the products menu and look for a free products link, all free tools. Scroll down to the third option. Just have a look for it in case they move it. Download the free Veeam Agent Windows. Now, I already have this downloaded, so I don't need to fill in those details or log in. So while you're waiting for that to download, first thing we want to do is prepare our 2 USB drives. As I said, I have 2 1 terabyte drives, so I'm just going to plug in the first drive. And what we'll do is we'll format that drive and label it. Now, this labeling is electronic, not physical on the drive, so I'd recommend you do a physical label on the disk itself. So you right-click on the disk. We want to format it in NTFS, give it a label, click Start. Takes a few seconds to run through, and at this point, get your favorite label machine, make a sticker called Backup Disk 1 and stick it on that drive. Now, eject the drive using a little USB ejection facility to make sure all changes are written safely to the drive before you remove it. Plug in the next drive, and again, we'll label this one or format this one, and at the same time, we'll label it Backup Disk 2. And again, just takes a few seconds to run through, and again, physically label it on the disk itself. So the theory is here we'll have 2 drives that we rotate around. So go to your downloads folder, double click the zip file. In there you'll see the installation file. You double click on that one. That will then start the installer process. And depending on the speed of your computer, the time to install will vary, of course. Click the options there to accept those terms. This will now run through the installation. And with the magic of post-editing, we've made that installation process a little bit quicker than what it might take you. And because we've still got one of these drives connected, it's detected that. I don't want to set this up now. Let's just skip that. There's a couple of settings I want to do differently. And we'll also do the recovery media separately as well. Now down in the system tray, you'll see a little icon there for the Veeam Agent. Double click that. We don't want to install a license file. We just want to run the free version or community edition. We click on the main menu, add a new job to configure our settings. Now this by default just calls it job followed by the computer name. That's fine. Entire computer is what I want to back up. I'll be backing up to local storage. And now here I select the backup target, which is that E drive, which is that backup disk 2 we have connected. I'm going to change it to retain 30 points. Under these advanced options here, we'll turn on the health check, and that can be scheduled to run on different, the monthly or weekly basis on different days. So this will also come down to how you set up your rotation of drives and how many drives you have as to what you set that to. There are some other options in there, but doing the full backup file maintenance as well, or perhaps doing some weekly full backups maybe, or something like that. But again, this is just a basic setup to get you going. And any serious backup requirements, you should have a chat to your preferred IT provider about that. Again, those active fulls depending on the size of your computer and the size of your backup drive, that may or may not be a good idea. So, and here on the storage tab, we can set a password for the backup file. So if anyone does find your backup drive, they can't get into the backups themselves. Click Next. Here we can set the schedule. So again, this will depend on what suits you best. You can set it to run daily, now every day, just on weekdays, or you can select which particular days you want it to run. Now there's a few other options there as well. I'm just going to leave it at every day. If the computer's powered off, it will back up once it's powered on, and after the backup, the computer will keep running. These options at the bottom half there, we'll go over those in a different video. We apply these settings, gives you a summary of what you've selected. I'll tell it to run now, click Finish. And you'll see here the backup has started, so it's now in the process of taking an image of the entire machine onto that drive. Now during the install, we saw the warning saying backup media needed to be created, so we'll do that now following that link. What I'm going to do is create an ISO file, and we'll save that on the desktop of the computer, just like that. Click Next and Create. Now, this is now creating an ISO file, which will have all the goodies required in there if you need to boot your machine. If your system drive fails and you need to boot, you could burn that ISO file to a DVD if you have a DVD drive. There is another option as well to create the recovery USB drive, which we'll do as well. But I like creating the ISO, and I will put a copy of those on the backup drive to keep with that. That will just help in the event that you don't have the thumb drive, or you lose that, or you just have your USB drive with the backups, you've got a copy of that ISO with you. You can see here it's doing both at the same time. And again, we'll just cut out a bit of the dead time here to keep the video a bit shorter. Okay, so the ISO file's been created. You can see it just appeared on the desktop there. As I said, we'll put a copy of that on the backup drive. So it's created a Veeam backup folder, and there's a folder there where the backup job is going. So what we'll do, we'll just take a copy of that ISO, place it in this Veeam backup folder. As I said, that could just be very handy if you only have that backup drive with you and need to recover your machine. All right, so that's done. It's basically now a case of waiting for this backup job to finish. And again, with the magic of post-editing, we will make this video a little bit shorter. Okay, so that backup is finished. Took about 10 minutes to run through. What we're going to do now is we'll eject that drive. Make sure you get the little prompt to tell you it's safe to remove the drive. Now I'm going to insert the USB thumb drive, and we'll create the bootable USB drive, which is very handy for what's called a bare metal recovery, where you might have a failed hard drive and you put a new one in, or you might even be changing out your hard drive for a larger one, or upgrading from a spinning disk to a solid state drive. So quick trick here, click on V, go down to Veeam, create recovery media. It's now detecting what's plugged in. We'll choose the USB drive, which is a 16 gig USB drive. You can put the decryption key on there. I wouldn't do that, because if that gets found with the backup drive, then there was no point putting a password on your backup in the first place. It's just giving you a warning. It's going to format that thumb drive, so everything on that will be lost, and it will create that drive. So this just takes a little while here. It's a little bit slower on this setup, only because I'm running, this demo is being recorded on a virtual machine. So the pass through to the USB seems to be a bit slower than normal. So again, with a bit of editing magic, we will speed this up. Okay, so it's just about completed the creation of this USB drive. recovery media has been created. You'll see it's got a different label now. It's called Veeam RE. Again, we want to do a right click on that one, select eject. Now you can remove that from your machine. And at this point, what we'll do is we'll connect in our second USB drive, the one we have not backed up to yet, just so that we can get it back up onto that disk as well. So there it is, backup disk 1 is now connected to the system. If we go and right click, backup now, this is going to come up with a warning because the Veeam software doesn't know about this drive. We need to tell it about this removable drive and that it's allowed to use it for backups. So you can click on that link there, or you can go through the menu, go to settings, into manage registered storage devices. So if you've got more than 2 drives, you want to set up 5 drives, Monday through Friday, that's fine. You can just go in here and register them. And then Veeam will know that those drives are good to go for backups. And now it's off and running. It's seen that drive there, and away it goes. So with this setup, we've got 2 USB hard drives, and the plan would be to rotate those drives. So that means if you've got your backup scheduled like we have for say 8 p.m., you have your drive connected. At night, it will back up your computer. When you come in the morning, disconnect the drive that's plugged in and connect the other drive and repeat that process every day. Now, there are cloud backup options available if you don't want to be backing up to local drives and have to remember that. But I understand that some people don't have great internet, or you may have large amounts of data. You might be involved with photography or engineering and have large files, which is just not practical to upload those over perhaps what we might call substandard internet in some areas in this country. So that's about it. Let this run through. You can go in and check the status of your backups through the Veeam control panel. There are options in the settings to configure email alerts to let you know if jobs have been successful or failed, etc. Something that will vary depending on what email provider you use and how you want to set that up. But the purpose of this video was just to get you up and running with a minimum configuration of 2 drives, so you always have 1 disconnected backup in the case of a cryptolocker attack, and everything connected to your machine gets encrypted and you get a ransom note. You'll always have that 1 or more drives that are disconnected from the machine. The last thing we'll do is we'll just copy that ISO file across to the backup drive. So we have a copy on that one. And that's about it. You're all set. You've got your two drive backup system in place. Right, so now that backup's finished, what we'll do is let's delete that ISO file from the desktop, and I'll show you how you can recover files from your backups. The first thing we'll do is just wait for this backup to finish, and we'll click on Backup Now. What that's going to do is trigger what's called an incremental backup, which takes a backup of the system as it is now, but it only backs up the changes since the last full backup. Right, so that incremental backup is completed. So now we can go through here, select Restore File, or you can go through the little control panel icon down there and pick the same thing. So it's going to look at what is attached to the machine. That it's seen that backup drive, it knows that those backups are there. It's seeing 2 restore points, the full one and the incremental backup. So if we have a look at that incremental backup, we'll open that up. It opens up in a window that looks very much like the Windows File Explorer, very similar. And I'll navigate through to the desktop folder and we'll have a look for that ISO file. Now that ISO file is not there because we deleted it before the incremental backup ran. So what we'll do is we'll go back in, we'll select the restore file again, but this time we'll select the full backup. So once we click on full, open, again, it will open up in that same Explorer type window, and we'll go and find the desktop folder. So users, my username is called setup on here, desktop, and there's the ISO. So we can right click restore, override it if it exists. And you'll see here it's processing that file. So it's extracting that file out of the large backup file. There's about 600 odd megabytes here. And it restores that out fairly quickly. And that's how easy it is if you do need to restore a file from your backup, if you don't have a full system failure, but perhaps you're just missing some files which someone accidentally deleted. That's how that's done. Close it down, close that little Explorer window, and that's it. Now, I hope this has been helpful. If you'd like to leave a comment below with any questions, whether it's on YouTube or on Twitter, you can find me NathanOldfield6 or my website, nathanoldfield.tech. And if you'd like to send me an email, it's nathan@nathanoldfield.tech. Thanks for watching.